Hey everybody, it's JJ here. Welcome back to Geeky Dad's Reads. I'm glad you're here, and tonight I want to talk about how I quit doom scrolling and started reading more. I grew up kind of in the early stages of social media. I had Facebook when I was you still had to have an email address from college to be able to get on it. And that's really my first social media was Zanga. It was some site called Zanga. I don't even remember much about it. But I used to hang out on social media all the time. I'd hang out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter back then, all these different places. And over time, I just came exhausted with these places. But I would always justify it. I'd say, well, I'm an author, so I have to be over there to promote my work. And that was the reason I was on these platforms. But then I started looking at things and I started seeing, okay, I'm spending a lot of time on these platforms. But I'm not really talking about my work. I'm not really promoting my work. I'm not promoting my book signings or book events or anything like that. I'm just hopping in and looking at different things that are popping up. And most of the time, it was outrage. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the conversations that were happening in places. I used to enjoy being in Facebook groups. I don't enjoy being in Facebook groups anymore. I used to enjoy hopping on, Twitter and, having a GIF war with my friends and stuff like that. I don't enjoy being over there anymore. In fact, I deleted my X account. And I don't enjoy being on Threads. And so I decided I needed to implement a new strategy because, yes, I need to talk about my work in different places. However, it doesn't mean I have to hang out in those places. It doesn't necessarily mean I need to be a part of the conversation over there. So most of the time when I post to Facebook or TikTok or Threads, it's usually I'm posting through Buffer and letting the post go out. And some days I don't even hop on Facebook. I don't even hop on Threads. I don't even hop on TikTok. And a lot of times that's the truth. I just let the post go live. And a lot of people will message me and I'll hop on there maybe once or twice a week for about 10 minutes just to see if I have any comments. And I usually do. And those places still result in book sales and stuff like that. But I've learned that my mental health really can't handle being over there in those places because I don't like the conversations and I don't want to be a part of the conversations many times because they're divisive and they're just constantly turning into toxic discussions. But where did I enjoy hanging out? Well, I enjoyed hanging out on Substack, and I enjoyed hanging out here on YouTube, and I enjoyed hanging out on Instagram. But I wasn't finding myself doom scrolling in those places and getting into arguments or being consumed with an argument in those areas, especially here on YouTube. I love consuming content on here on YouTube. In fact, I would prefer to watch YouTube videos about, somebody's ranking of Star Wars novels for 2 hours as opposed to going to Netflix. To me, that's enjoyable. I love those geeky kind of conversations. But I started thinking, okay, how can I fight back against my addiction to social media? And one of the ways is I realized I could read more. As an author, we write books because we want people to read, but then we as authors sometimes don't read enough. And to me, that kind of disturbed me. I used to read 25 to 30 books a year. I'm a slow reader. I'm not a fast speed reader, but I would read at least 25 to 30 books a year. And I started looking and saying, okay, how many books did I actually consume this past year, both audio and physical? And I was embarrassed to say about 8 to 9. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to spend less time on social media and I'm going to spend more time reading books because I think it's important. And I also would look at my kids and realize, you know what? They're kind of watching me and I'm setting a horrible example. And the first time I decided I was going to do this, I also found myself getting bored. I would reach for the phone constantly. And I'd be like, you know what? I've posted all my content. It went out through Buffer. I just need to let it go. And I would set it there. And I put time limits on the apps and it wouldn't work and stuff like that. And it was driving me nuts because I was getting bored. But you know what? Boredom is a good thing. And I think we need to learn to get bored on purpose. And so when I started getting bored and I started thinking about, okay, what am I reading? I could be replacing this boredom with more reading. And I would sit down and I would read. I would challenge my boys to read. And sometimes they wouldn't do it. My youngest son would consume Calvin and Hobbes and I'd be like, you know what? He's reading. My oldest son is reading some Frank Peretti right now, and I think that's so cool. And I'll ask him questions because I've read the books. And I'm like, oh, where are you at? Oh, okay, you're getting to the next part. And it became an exciting conversation, and I love those conversations. And part of the reason I started Geeky Dad's Reads is because I kind of want to create that conversation. I kind of want to just talk about books here. I want to talk about books online. I used to be able to do that in places like Facebook groups and Goodreads and stuff like that, but those places have just become toxic. So here I can talk about the books that I'm reading and hopefully get other people to talk about the books that they're reading as well. But reading for me, it made me realize I don't need to scroll. And honestly, I spend less than 15, 20 minutes a day now on social media. And a lot of people are like, but you post 2 to 3 times a day. Well, that's because it's scheduled. And because I no longer let it consume my life. I post, I leave. And a lot of people are like, well, you're not a part of the community. Well, what community? Are we talking about a toxic conversation? Or are we just talking about loving books? Because right here's where I'm trying to build that community. But it starts with becoming a reader who develops the habit of reading and replaces bad habits with good habits. For me, reading allowed me to kind of push that dopamine hit to the side. So the first thing I tell people when they say, I want to read more and scroll less, my recommendation is find something short. Don't find something long. Don't go grab a big, huge, epic fantasy that's 1,000 pages. Grab something that's about 200 pages. Grab a novella. Grab something that has a lot of white space, that moves quickly, that's fast-paced with short chapters. Grab something you enjoy. That's another thing I think most people realize is that you don't have to read what's trending. Read what you enjoy. If you just go and you read things that are trending, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to grow bored and just DNF books and go back to doom scrolling. Find the things you enjoy and read those. I like reading science fiction. I like reading fantasy. I like reading mysteries and westerns. I like reading fast-paced thrillers. My reading tastes are all over the map, but primarily it's within the speculative genre that I enjoy reading the most, and so that's what I read. And mostly, I enjoy Star Wars Expanded Universe, or Legends, as the heathens like to say. I enjoy those things, so that's what I read, and that's what I like talking about here. So my advice when somebody says, hey, I'd like to read more and scroll less, the first thing I say is, what do you enjoy reading? Go read that. Don't go read what's trending and what's popular. Read what brings you joy. And that's my biggest advice when it comes to learning to read in order to replace scrolling. And I think it's important because I think as we step back and we look at everything that's going on in society and around us, one of the things that we all need to do more is embrace stories, because stories build empathy, stories build understanding, and stories help us make sense of the world that we're living in, which quite frankly is pretty chaotic. I'm JJ. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're struggling with reading, let me know what you're going to do to try and break out of your slump. I'll see you all in the next video. Later.